Hi, everybody. My name is Jason Wampler. This is another episode of Dimestore Psychology, which is a production of Armstrong Media Group. Um, I'm watching these videos about people having experiences and making claims that they were in a parallel dimension. I've kind of made light, fun of what is it saying, a tear in the time space continuum. I wanted to dispel a couple of myths because I'm an engineer. Um, I'm an amateur psychologist. I've never studied psychology in school. I have studied, I'm a college dropout. I haven't finished my degree in industrial design and engineering. I'm also an author, but I'm a thinking man, and I've always held by the adage: it's not how well you think; it's how often you think. Um, my friend, who passed away a long time ago, Kevin Colwell, was studying human psychology at Cal State Long Beach. He passed away from a heart condition. Unfortunately, he was very young. He's only 30 years old. This is like 20 years ago. He's basically 2 years younger than me. I'm 53. He would have been 51. He would have been a practicing psychiatrist or psychoanalyst by now. His name was Kevin Colwell. He was a very, very astute, fine young man. Um, but anyway, I miss him. He was a good friend and such and so forth. But he mentioned several facts to me about the human brain. Number one, 231,000, that's 231,000 different chemical reactions take place in the human brain every second. Not every minute, not every hour, every second. So I'm not sure how many take place when you're sleeping. Obviously, you use less of your brain when you're sleeping. Your nervous system is unwinding. It's unraveling and recharging, and you need your sleep. And full-grown adults still need 7 to 8 hours of sleep, and some people say that sometimes even 8 hours a night is not enough. Um, some other fun facts: too much caffeine can have a negative effect on your moods, your emotions, and your thinking. Caffeine in large doses can become toxic. It is a controlled substance. Tobacco contains nicotine. Nicotine is a controlled substance. It's addictive and very, very hard to break away from. Um, all these substances that are being put in products with CBD in it. CBD, in my opinion, is an unhealthy and dangerous chemical or drug or whatever you want to call it. Anything with a CBD product in it is not necessarily fixing the problem. It does what it says it's going to do, but what people don't understand is what it's doing is putting a bandage or duct tape on a leaking pipe. CBD is dangerous. Marijuana is dangerous. Hemp is dangerous. CBD comes from the THC in the marijuana, which is basically the oils and the crystals on the oils on the inside of the plant and the crystals on the outside of the plant, which is very, very closely related to acid. The stuff that people would take, again, similar to LSD, an acronym, not an acronym, but an abbreviation for a word, three words that go together that describe what kind of chemical LSD is. CBD is in the THC. CBD comes from THC. THC is closely related to LSD. All of these are psychotropics. They're hallucinogenics. I used to smoke marijuana when I was a kid, and folks, I've got to warn you about this. Um, I do believe I did significant nervous damage. I forced myself into early adulthood, and I did do nervous damage to my nervous system from ingesting wild mushrooms I got from a kid named Bruce McGurn Jr., who was a very reprehensible person. I don't know if he's straightened out his act by now. My same age, he's probably 53 if he's alive and not in prison. His father was a good man, passed away. He had a good family, excellent upbringing. The guy just turned out like crap. I mean, Bruce McGurn Jr. was just a flop in life. He could only do bad things, and he had excellent parenting and a great home life. He just went bad regardless. He gave me those wild mushrooms. I left them in my blue and green flannel shirt. in the right pocket, a little the plastic packet. I ingested those back in May of 1986, and I felt good for about 20 minutes, and then for 4 hours and 20 minutes after that, I had the worst chemical reaction slash fallout of my life. And then I made the determination not to ingest drugs anymore and to not drink alcohol or smoke anymore. And I dumped my girlfriend, made right with God. I, practiced my own religious faith, walking a straight line, or at least I'm trying to. I do take Klonopin for, not Klonopin, excuse me, I'm so sorry, Paxil, which is an antidepressant because I have manic depression. I also have insomnia because for 25 years of my life, I was going from doctor to doctor to doctor, clinical psychiatrist, to find the right combination of medications. And it was difficult. It took 25 years. And, honestly, psychiatrists kind of know what they're doing, but they kind of don't. Successful treatment of depression, mental depression, bipolar disorder, even schizophrenia, um, and mood instability issues, PTSD, ADHD or ADD, whatever they want to call these terms, any type of mental disorder that in my case is either inherited from both your parents. So I didn't have anything to do with it. I had the great parents, but they both passed on mental depression and anxiety to me. That's for my mother, and mental depression and anger for my father. So I got it from both ends. I do take Paxil. I do take Trazodone. Trazodone is a mood stabilizer that I need. I also need it for sleep. Paxil, if I did not take Paxil, I would be severely depressed and I'd be migrating towards suicidal thoughts. So I have to be careful about what I take. Other than that, I do exactly what the doctor tells me to do, when and how they tell me to do it. Why am I talking about this? Is because I'm setting up this dissertation for a reason. I haven't shot an episode of the Rocket Minute yet because I'm in the state of moving. I'm either moving to Los Angeles or somewhere in North Orange County again, so I have to change locations again. And I've got a little kitty with me, Valencia, and you may or may not know about her. So I'm taking her with me too, and I got to find a place, to accept her. So I'm dealing with that stress. So I'm not shooting videos of the Rocket Minute, but folks, I can do a whole lot of good just telling people, um, unofficial observations on human psychology that require a careful amount of thought, natural talent and passion, which I have for human psychology, or not talent, I should say, but a gift, from God. No, I don't brag in gifts. And by the way, I like Jeff Bezos' speech on gifts. Jeff Bezos is actually a fairly level-headed individual, and I admire him. But I tell this story a lot. My grandmother always taught me how to do people watching, and it's from there I started watching people from my 10th birthday until now, or my age of 10 until the age of 53, and of course I'm still doing it. And I'm learning a lot of things about human psychology, that as it ebbs and flows and it affects markets, consumer markets, inflation, the prime interest rate, etc., etc., etc. But there are other things at play that contribute to, how do I say this, psychological, physiological impressions of reality, space and time reality. And unfortunately, because of the 231,000 different individual chemical reactions that take place in your brain every second, it is not at all beyond the scope of imagination to imagine that there would be problems that arise from the fact that we may be mixing some certain medications. We forgot to take our medications. Sometimes people do recreational drugs. They smoke a little pot. They drink some alcohol. They ingest foods with certain types of preservatives in it. Or somebody mixes alcohol and too many energy drinks. The next day they smoke a little pot. Well, your brain is racing to catch up to level itself off in response to these items that you ingested, but I can notice with a great deal of clarity and consistency the effect the ingestion of certain types of substances, be it alcohol, energy drinks, anything with prolific amounts of caffeine in it, smoking with nicotine in it, menthol, which by the way has been banned from the United States, thank goodness. Um, and I've been under the influence of menthol before. I was showering with shampoo that had menthol in it to give me give your scalp kind of a tingly feel when you're washing your hair with the shampoo. And you could kind of smell the menthol, same as menthol cigarettes, but it made my scalp kind of tingle, like the stuff is it's giving the impression the stuff's really working, and it wasn't. It's just overexpensive shampoo, overzealous in the price and overpriced, et cetera, et cetera. But the state of California had the insight to ban that, and just recently they banned flavored cigarettes for somewhat the same reason. Menthol has an effect on people that it makes people very angry and and inclined towards physical violence. Alcohol is an barbiturate. It causes a deteriorative attitude. However, a strong-willed person can be a functional, highly successful individual and still be a functional alcoholic if they have a good woman in their life. Yeah, I'm just talking about the men folk. Cocaine can have kind of the same effect, but eventually it'll cause somebody to derail and do things that are just too overzealous, too risky, rebellious, and stupid. Now, in my case, if I drink too much caffeine, I get rebellious and stupid, and I take too many risks. I drive my car too fast. So I'm limiting myself to one serving of caffeine per day, one 10-ounce serving of caffeine per day. And that just wakes up my brain and elevates my mood and gets me prepared to take on the day, with my joust and my shield. Um, but what worries me is the fact that, like I'm talking about, the 231,000 different individual chemical reactions take place in the human brain every second. What's worrying me is that we're coming out of COVID-19, and I'm starting to see a spike in advertising for alcohol. And I'm starting to see a spike in alcoholism, and people in any area you see people with bags of alcohol, the rise in popularity of liquor stores, people becoming day drinkers on a Monday, where people used to only drink on the weekend after a long week of work, and they want to unwind and relax. Well, drinking alcohol to soothe your problems, or drinking alcohol on a regular basis because you have a dependency on it. Guess what? That constitutes alcoholism. So people are addicted to alcohol. With the spike in the cost of living due to reasons I'm not going to get into, so I'm not a political commentator, the high cost of living, the high cost of food, food keeps going up in price. We've got to keep an eye on that. Gas keeps going up in price. Rent keeps going up in price. And then, of course, if you live in the state of California, you can go from a $150 ticket to $1,200 ticket literally overnight, plus traffic school, plus signing up for the privilege of being able to sign up for traffic school. The court dings you about $175 for that. Don't ask me why. With all the rise in the cost of living and all the pressures and problems that people have to deal with, in Orange County it's bad enough. In Los Angeles it's much, much worse. People are so out of control and on edge in Los Angeles, plus with a reduced police force, it's now becoming fairly dangerous to commute to work or to drive around in Los Angeles unless you're carrying a firearm. I'm sorry, that's just the way it goes. But I want to talk about something, and I don't know how long this discussion is going to go on for, and I swear I really want to take my shirt off right now, but that's not appropriate. I want to talk about something, discussion. I watch these top 10 videos, and they're very enthusiastically done, but given people's current collective knowledge of science and physics, and including math, engineering, geometry, algebra, quantum mechanics, etc., a lot of people are making what I would consider science fiction claims about, I think the terror and the time-space continuum. We watch movies like Spider-Man Universe, and all of a sudden Stan Lee is putting it into the minds of the late Stan Lee, who I respect very much, but Marvel Universe is all of a sudden putting into the eyes and minds of people, well, there are parallel universes. Okay, so this isn't even a scientific theory. First of all, Hollywood is Hollywood. They're gonna present something as if it's the actual truth, that it's dabbling in reality. That's how they make a movie good, by writing, producing, directing a movie that is as realistic and as close to scientific truth as possible, or at least giving that illusion. Well, there's a problem with that. There's several problems. Number one, my hair is okay. I just fat and pale skinned. Um, there are a lot of problems I have with fictional claims. Science fiction is now more fiction, very, very, very little science. Like the show Stargate, there's no such thing. You don't. Um, the idea that there's some type of portal you go through that hangs in mid space, that you're able to pass through and go to another side of the universe. Um, the idea that something like that exists, it can't really be explained by the classic laws of physics, yet it's purported, at least on a science fiction level, as being, relevant knowledge that influences how other science fiction movies and shows are written and storylines are predicted. Okay. This disturbs me because it warps people's view of reality and of the universe. But what really disturbs me is people making claims that I was transported to an alternate universe. Well, to use a movie as an example, not the last Ghostbusters movie, the Ghostbusters 2, the second Ghostbusters movie, which is back almost, I think, in like 1988 or 89. I mean, it's before the 90s, it was way back. Um, Bill Murray's character, Dr. Vengler, had a show, Meet the Psychic, and he was bringing on these people who had this one girl who had an exceptionally low IQ. I mean, either she was dropped on her head or she was programmed by her daddy at home for 20 years straight that she was a complete idiot. I mean, this girl was dumb. She describes being approached by an alien who looked like a man carrying a drink in a bar, and then this man, who she pretty sure was an alien, invited him up to his room, which she was pretty sure was the alien spaceship, and they proceeded to have sex. Well, this highlights a point. I understand that the second Ghostbusters movie is just as fictitious, and I'm referring to that. Therein reflects the reality of certain people's level of naivety and gullibility. Do not believe everything you hear. The woman was conditioned to think that way because of what the popular media, weaving truth and falsehood throughout its depictions of programs that are sometimes realistic and sometimes not. People get a blurred and distorted understanding of what reality really is, or what real reality. I mean, that's like saying ATM machine. Sorry, that was redundant. Um, there's this point with this actress who's acting like a ditzy woman who actually got taken advantage by a guy who convinced her he was trying to control her with his mind. That's right, the space alien had telekinesis, the ability to control her mind, to get her to go in his hotel room. So basically, a regular guy got a little liquored up, wanted to take advantage of her and have sex with her. I mean, some guys are like that. That was a reality, but the fact is, she thought it was a space alien using telepathic powers to manipulate her and control her, and get on the guy's spaceship, decorated as one of the hotel's bedrooms. You see that all the time. People are misled by the fact that the media weaves, reality, truth, and falsehood all out through their shows, and all for the sake of entertainment. And I understand that, but the problem is, people are so inclined, or they're so self-abusive by becoming alcoholics. Alcoholism is much more widespread now than it was, before 2019 or 2020, with the onset of the COVID-19 affair, which I still think is kind of an exercise in the government maintaining a semblance of control due to reduced budget and reduced police forces throughout the country to maintain control. I've always maintained the statement that illusion is a control. It's a way to control people. So I never believed in the COVID-19 or the vaccinations or the plastic shields or the bags or the little booster shots. I've never believed in COVID-19. I don't think that COVID-19 was going to wipe us out. I think a lot of world leaders simply flipped out, combination of things, flipped out, and were overzealous about protecting their own lives. This comes from people who think this life is all there is, and they're rather delicate and not as hardy as they need to be. My opinion is, of course, on COVID-19, it was a variant. It was another variation of flu virus. It may have been engineered, but if it was so long ago. It's probably it probably evolved and mutated. My opinion of viruses, they're nature's version of hitmen. When for lack of a better word, the genome, the collective genome in a life system starts to break down after years and years of inbreeding populations. The virus comes along and attacks these inbred offspring of any type of collective life system, and they basically start killing the life forms off and making way for newer, younger life forms, which will hopefully intermingle on a broader basis and cause the effect of cross, cross genetics or genetic mixing to make that newer life form strong and robust. But when life forms break down, viruses come in, destroy them, and they make way for newer, stronger life forms. Thus, the Earth constantly destroys and rebuilds itself, I believe. This is just a theory, and this is just my thought. I have not taken anything to the umpteenth degree where I've stenciled it, done research, and stenciled my findings against the obviously the scientific method. I don't know if I'm a scientist or not. I know that I a lot of things, but like I said, folks, if you're insistent on the fact that you had a doppelganger experience or you crossed over to a parallel dimension, the folks that write that awful show Stargate that I never want to watch, but just talk about regurgitated crap. I mean, they just milk that damn show for whatever it's worth. To people who make claims that I was in a parallel dimension, well, I have several things to tell you that take the wind out of your sails. Number one, you folks have an untapped, vivid, creative imagination. You should be using that talent to write movie scripts because Hollywood needs it right now. Write books on science fiction. Do something creative. Don't just revert to drinking alcohol, drinking too much energy drinks, or ingesting too much caffeine. Because a little bit of mix with that, plus some psychotropic medications, plus the fact that you're mentally lazy and you don't want to think for yourself, so you let the local politicians and leaders do that for you, like they're asking you to let them do. And then all of a sudden, you're having very, very strange dreams. And I wonder why. At 231,000 different chemical reactions each second, the brain has a lot of work to do, and sometimes it can't keep up with all the mess you make. So I'm proposing a cleaner lifestyle, no smoking, no drugs, definitely no alcohol, no marijuana, no CBD. Sorry, maybe one serving of caffeine in the morning. Don't smoke cigarettes. It's not that smoking will kill you anyway, but the nicotine does a number on your brain as well. It's the most addictive chemical in the world. So substance abuse is out. Leave that alone. Positive thinking is in, taking care of your brain, but even more importantly than that, learn how to be a critical thinker. And before somebody tells you something is true or asserts that it's true or it must be true, you need to ask who, what, why, where, when, and what, and how much. Where would you get these ideas from? If you're getting in a political dogfight with somebody, be polite and simply ask them, who do you respect? Who do you want to pattern your life after? Who influences your thinking and earns your respect? So when you talk to someone, you find out who their heroes are versus who might be in their penalty box, because that's negative, and you make the conversation positive, you're going to find out what these people are about. But what you're going to find about people is that whereas we are a westernized society that is constantly trying to evolve socially to the point where I think there are a lot of social geniuses in our population. I think there are a lot of people who are computer programmers in our population. They're absolute geniuses. I think there are many, many singers and cooks in our population that are absolute geniuses. But that's kind of not what this country needs right now. This country needs more clear thinkers, more like Jordan Peterson's, Ben Shapiro's. Ben Shapiro's not perfect, but I'd rather listen to him than a toxic feminist ranting off about how women used to have three breasts and they deserve more milk in their breasts, and toxic feminists going off about fighting for their rights and freedom from being insulted. And I'm shaking my head wondering two things. Um, you know, what are you fighting for that you don't already have? And the other thing is, why are you being pushy and insisting on believing the way you believe? Putting all that aside, I'm kind of starting to understand human mentality, but you couple substance abuse of any type with a drastically overtaxed, stressed out, perpetually unhappy life, no sense of purpose, no sense of direction, no sense of identity. You don't know what you want to do with yourself, no belief in God, no hope for the future, and all that starts to amalgamate, and that with the 231,000 different chemical reactions in the brain all come together to create all sorts of unusual and extraordinarily complicated illusions. And I'm telling you right now, if somebody's riding the back of that horse, it would be it'd be multinational companies that basically sell drugs, sell cigarettes, sell energy drinks, sell alcohol. They want to do research into the human mind. They want to discover behavioral science. They want to study behavioral science, because this is like market research. Advertising is based on selling the sizzle. Advertising is giving a positive image of yourself using the product. But now advertisers and marketing executives are starting to realize we have to put ourselves in the position of those who is our target market, and we have to now figure out how they think, how they feel, what causes these reactions, what is their habit. Advertisers have never tried to control people's minds in so much that they simply discern their thoughts, their thinking patterns, their reasoning, family structure, the daily routine, such and so forth. This is called observation. We live in a glass house, many doors and windows. Everybody's being watched by everybody else, so you're not alone in the universe. Somebody is watching you, but the person that's watching you, somebody's watching them as well. We live in a world of information technology and an information revolution. The planet is simply not big enough for us anymore. That is the problem. So everybody's watching everybody else. But again, here's the problem. We're stressed out by life. We're inducing copious amounts of controlled substance in our system. Alcohol is a drug. It is a barbiturate. It's not an amphetamine. And that, coupled with the loss of the family structure, dysfunctional background, immature behavior, chemicals in the foods that stimulate sexual desire, alcoholism, the stress of living, the 231,000 different chemical reactions taking place in the brain every second, and the fact that people now, in the most dangerous period in human history, this is a point in history that's the most important time for people to be thinking, looking, analyzing, and observing the world around you very, very, very closely. Stop concentrating on other universes somewhere else. Stop looking at the stars, because we have plenty of problems on this planet, and plenty of problems that need to be solved. So get your priorities straight. Get your thinking straight. Or you're going to, if you keep abusing your body with psychotropic substances, 10 energy drinks a day, you're going to go to sleep at night, you're going to crash, but eventually you're going to cause serious health problems. But before you do that, you're going to cause serious mental problems. And here's the next point I wanted to get to. I just wanted to structure this discussion and lead to where it's getting to. People are making the claim they've been visited by someone in the alternate dimension. I have some things to say about it. For some people, I do believe in God. I do believe God sends angels to protect people. He makes it rain on the wicked and the righteous. So we've got another element to throw in. But here's, again, there's a fine line. This is also a critical period in human history where we need to start endeavoring to look for the truth of the matter. What is that reality actually based on? And this is a reality that's above and beyond um, what we perceive it to be, because we didn't create the universe. We're just in the middle of it or off to the side of it, and we're absorbing what it has to tell us. This is, by the way, not a religious channel. I have no desire to talk about religion at all. I just mentioned myself that I profess to be a Christian, and and a servant of God. But that's the extent of my religious discussions. I'm not a proponent of the discussion of several topics, being one of which is religion and the other one is politics. So, in any other illicit discussions. By the way, a quick reminder, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Again, my name is Jason Wampler. I'm your host. Another episode of the Dimestore Phsycology, and of course, this is a production of Armstrong Media Group. Continuing the discussion, the only way I can illustrate people making claims about tearing the time-space continuum, this nonsense that the center of a black hole, in the middle of the black hole, is a portal to another dimension, this belief in time travel, I traveled back in time. Let me debunk all these myths and in very, very short order and help people start really thinking straight. Because the sooner you can get grounded in reality and start thinking logically and behaving yourself and training your mind to think correctly and be structured and organized, and your problem solving skills and troubleshooting procedures and such and so forth. Um, you know, I'm just trying to help, but it just seems like some aspirations are a little bit too noble, or they're simply going to take too long. So we'll just take things one baby step at a time. But I cannot stand it. People keep saying I was visited by myself in in a parallel universe. Well, you know what I call that? I call that dream stage during rapid eye movement. That particular portion of your sleep pattern from night to morning. So we have a combination of things. We have, alcohol and drug abuse and substance abuse that's contributing to what I would say very, very, very unique, extraordinary, and very powerful psychotropic reactions to psychological reactions to all the stresses that human beings have to deal with. Now, I understand that we don't know much about how psychology was 150 years ago, but 150 years ago, the stress of making a living for, like for myself with a wife and, 2 or 3 kids was substantially different. It was radically different. People were simply not in a boiling pot. And if God had turned up the pot, he turned up so low that it would have taken a couple of years to boil over. Well, where we're at now does not compare in any way, shape, or reference or form to what life was like 150 or 200 or 300 years ago. People weren't under the same amount of pressure that they are now. Okay, things are going horrendously for a lot of people all the way around. Now again, you have to just kind of step back and take a broader look at the whole picture, but then start adding things up. 2 plus 2 equals 4. Now you have 3 2's. This is basic math. 2 plus 2 plus 2 equals 6. So okay, 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 equals 8. Just add all the 2's up with plus signs in them. Now you get something as complicated as 6 2's equal 12. Take back 4 2's, add 7. You're doing a little bit more complicated math. But here's, sorry, that's all the math I'm going to discuss too. I put that up there with religion and politics. I don't really like math that much, but it's means to an end sometimes. But here's the point. You start putting 2 and 2 and 2 and 2 and 2 together. You start looking at hunting and pecking popular media. YouTube is my favorite platform, but you can go to other places as well, whatever you like. And you start listening to the stories that John Bolin on Bolin Shorts has to say, or any stories that Callan likes to tell on Slapped Ham. You can listen to these guys doing these stories for a very, very long time. But here's the point. You take things one step back further. You keep digging until you get to the taproot of the cause. Okay, so people are stressed out. Why are they stressed out? High cost of living, high cost of medical care, problems and pressures raising a family, dysfunctional family, parents yelling at each other, grandmother raising son, no discipline, a high school dropout, no military experience. And all of a sudden, these guys are putting on a tie and a pair of shoes, trying to work an office job. So we've got things, you've got the perfect storm swirling down on people. And then again, you have the substance abuse from nicotine to even to caffeine or to alcohol, CBD, marijuana, LSD. I don't care. Should be anything with marijuana. Drugs, people, drugs, they don't affect you the way you'd like them to affect you, because not all circumstances are going to be benefited by you being under the influence. Sorry, I'm closing my eyes here. Not all circumstances are going to be benefited by you being under the influence. You're going to start to screw up, and eventually, if you drive fast enough while stoned, you're going to end up hitting something at very high speed, doing a Paul Walker, and dying in the crash. So it's just hard to say and encapsulate just one major theme in a discussion like this. But excuse me, folks. Give me just a second. I'm going to get something to drink. I'll be right back. Let's just stay on the phone. And folks, here I'm back. I just had to get some water to wet my whistle, as the saying goes. Folks, here's the point. Is that the grand point I'm trying to make, and the reason I was compelled. I do shoot an episode of Dimestore Phsycology. One episode of Dimestore Psychology. I try to do it late night, Sunday nights. This is important. I seem to be playing my talents. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. I'm understanding. My understanding is from other YouTubers with their own channels that it takes a long time to get successful at this, as in a couple of years. Well, I'm lighting that kettle right now. Like I said, hit the like, hit the subscribe, leave a lot of comments. Leave any comments you want. I'm not going to tout my credentials anymore, just to say that I'm still in the process of finishing my bachelor's degree in industrial design engineering. I'm not even a psychologist. I'm not even a therapist. But God's honest truth, why I don't have a degree in psychology by now is beyond me. I could get degrees in psychology, engineering, literature, political science. I'm 53 years old. I'm not going to live to be 300 years old, although sure would be nice to have a couple of PhDs under my belt. I'm one of those people who loves knowledge and education, but I want to help people out. Let me give an illustration. Okay, or not an illustration, but just kind of a teaching lesson comparison. Most people I used to deal with when I was in the service business, just trying to make enough money to get to school for my industrial design engineering degree. I was in the mobile automotive repair business. Now, that's not my dream job, but it was an easy business to run. It just didn't pay that well. I'm dealing with people who don't have a lot of money. I've got people, for example, I had one customer, I'm using this as an example. I'm not trying to talk about car repair, but the example I'm using is a girl named Rhonda. I don't even know what her last name is. And this woman, she's dysfunctional, she's immature, she thinks she's smart. She thinks she knows about cars more than I do. And she just had trust issue after trust issue, yet she insisted on using me to fix her son's car. I don't know what's wrong with this woman. I don't have any dealings with her anymore, and I don't fix cars for a living anymore. But the point I'm trying to make is, for example, mechanically, half of the engine in her son's car was dead. It was only running on 2 cylinders instead of 4 because some issues. internal engine parts. There's no compression in number one and three cylinders. So half the engine was shut down. But her complaint was her son said the car keeps stalling at an idle and he keeps putting a bunch of water in it. And I'm thinking, she's smart enough and her son's smart enough to know if a car gets so far, so bad with a problem, they're going to take it to a mechanic or they're going to give me a call. And I'll go out and take a look at it and give my advice. Well, I spent a half an hour on the phone with her just arguing with her because she didn't trust me. She took a half an hour of my time away when I was trying to sit down. And one of the very few instances where I actually went to a nice restaurant, ate by myself, and was kind of just reminiscing about certain thoughts I had, but I like my alone time a little bit too much so. And I get this call from Rhonda, and she bothers me about her son Mason's car. And for half an hour, she's saying, "Well, I don't trust you. I think you're taking advantage of me." And I don't remember talking her into letting me do the job. I just remember defending my honor, which is a natural human response. Well, she was accusing me of everything but stealing, stealing from the Bedouins, raiding and taking the Ark of the Covenant, and sinking a battleship, and also setting a hospital on fire. But at the same time, she was also insisting that I have to work on her car, and I have to be cheap, and I have to be affordable, and I have to do it according to her time schedule, and our son has to have things done as well. And I'm just going through this whole conversation with Rhonda, just wondering, what the hell do you want? If you don't trust me, don't have me do work for you. Well, this is the mentality of people. Now, I'm not done with the story about Rhonda or her son Mason, but this is what Rhonda, who has no experience working on cars. I was working on cars since I was 15, and I still do from time to time now. And here's the point. I get over there to look at her son's car. She said, "Well, it just stalls too much. It's really hard to start afterwards." She starts up the vehicle, and the engine is 4 cylinders. So it's a little 4-cylinder Honda CRV. And it's running on 2 cylinders because I could hear it. I could always tell if a car is misfiring on more than one cylinder. And her son had been putting water in it instead of the right type of coolant in that engine for over 2 months, while he just had to drive it and just push it on 2 cylinders instead of 4 to get back and forth to work. And I'm looking at Rhonda going, Rhonda, half this engine is dead. And she told me, well, I looked it up on the internet and it said to replace the fuel pump relay. And that should solve the problem. And I said, Rhonda, it's not a fuel delivery problem. It's a lack of compression in a couple of your cylinders or a bad couple of spark plug coils. And I explained that to her 4 times in a row, and she wouldn't give an inch. Now, this job went from bad to worse. I ended up making not much at it, but I almost went back and stole the car, just driven it off a cliff. I was so upset. She has a son named Mason, and Mason's okay. Mason's a kind of a relatively reasonable person to deal with. Rhonda has more serious mental issues, and I could tell that neither one of them are compression, or how do I say, were capable. I don't think it was a toxic relationship. But anyway, I'm kind of getting off point. But her impression of cars, this is the median level of IQ amongst Americans right now. Her impression, after giving me a car her son had been driving for 2.5 months, working on only 2 cylinders instead of 4, and my impression, and her telling me the same thing. They just kept driving the car on 2 cylinders instead of 4. I mean, if you can imagine it's a pretty extreme situation. And, and here's her mentality. Because of that, we think we need to replace the fuel pump relay, and that'll cure the engine, and the thing will be fine to drive, because she looked it up on the internet. That particular level of mentality, a woman who has no basis in reality, is insulated by a clean house or a clean office. Those are people that are too insulated to the point where they're not really inclined to think about things critically and see patterns and draw conclusions that you don't make written in stone. So her mentality was, and I guess I suppose this illustration that the engine has deep mechanical problems. It's firing on three, it's flying on two cylinders, and the other two are dead. And she wanted to fix it with a fuel pump relay. Well, I don't know. That's like an elephant that's charging you, and you're trying to throw large scoops of vanilla ice cream at it in the efforts that you'll think you'll either kill it or crush its skull in. I don't know how else to illustrate the level of stupidity that Rhonda, well, I shouldn't say stupidity, but her level of ignorance was just incredible. I've never seen anything like that. That is so far from the truth. That is so far from fixing the problem. I just kind of threw my hands up in the air. So I hear this crap on these top 10 lists, which are very entertaining, bunch of young kids, is showing a lot of promise. But if they're shilling out untruth and crap, then that's going to subtract from their credibility in the future. It may have entertainment value now, but it's going to lose its umph in about 5 years, guys, or even 3 or 2, or even another month, and even another couple months. Because I see people like me, we tend to see through things like that, and we look for basic, simpler explanations. Well, again, I think it's a combination of all the aforementioned that makes it an unhealthy environment for people to live in. As a consequence, they refute these incredibly wild leaps of fancy because the collective conscious being trained by big media tells them they can. These people are prattling off theories and thoughts and stuff. This stuff isn't your information. You're allowing yourself to be brainwashed. You're allowing yourself to be controlled by other people who you given permission to do the thinking for you, are conducting, and they're also currently conducting extensive market research on you, information brokering, and all your personal information. And everything is so amalgamated that the U.S. government has probably given a green light to every major corporation in this country that needs to gather your information before they sell you stuff. That you have to figure out thinking and behavior patterns. So we're back to that. Americans are dumb. I'm sorry. And the only reason Americans are dumb, and most people, not most people in unfortunately, in the world, if they're in survival mode, they're not inclined to take the time and really sit down and think and meditate about what they see before them. I enjoy the company of engineers and scientists. I'm sorry, I'm not an official engineer yet because I haven't completed my degree. I enjoy very much our conversation, not just with engineers, but scientists and doctors. I find that I'm able to have an on par discussion with them all the same. If I don't know. I just, in the event that I have to talk to somebody who wants to insist on believing in things like a time space, a tear. Excuse me, I'm trailing off here. A tear in the time space continuum. I just, it's like a child asserting that he understands how to rebuild a Ferrari V12. I mean, come on. I mean, it's amazing how people are so well, for like I said, lack of a better word, ignorant. A problem with the average American is they've never been encouraged to think independently or think for themselves. As a consequence, there's no conspiracy against us. Unfortunately, because of serious, comedic serious events, the way human beings are raised in this country, uh, it just one thing leads to another, and they don't get a good education. They don't get proper discipline. They start to do things that that they, oh God, for lack of a better word, do things that are stupid, easily recognizable, determinable, and otherwise predictable for market research, for information brokering, for identity theft, which takes place every second of every day, no matter how hard anybody's going to find it, or fight against it. But because Americans are mentally lazy, intellectually apathetic, they're not used to thinking for themselves. Several entities are taking advantage of this particular condition, and they're doing what they can to take advantage of it and to exploit it to the umpteenth degree. Large corporations that want to benefit from that type of market research, again, they don't just want to know what you're buying, they want to know why, so they can make their product tailor fit and tailor suited to your needs to get your business and drive, of course, make a profit from that. I mean, isn't that the purpose of business? There is the government concern oneself with as well. Unfortunately, I don't really want to speak out against my own government, because I do believe the United States government is fantastic, but not unlike others. Of course, we're under surveillance 24/7. I've got no secrets to hide. Although somebody somewhere might think I'm a dangerous person because I build rockets. I build rockets in my house. I built rockets outside, outside out of the back of my Toyota. Let me dispel some myths, and I'm going to wrap it up because I am getting tired, and I'm trailing off. I have to get something to eat. I'm getting very hungry. But here's where I'm at. Here's where I'm coming from. There are no tariffs in the time-space continuum. There pretty much are no parallel dimensions or parallel universes, unless you're reading that from a definitively scientific source, or the American Medical Journal, or the American Journal of Psychology. Some, for lack of a better word, there's another medical report that I can't think of the name that's off the East Coast. But if you want to deal with scientists and engineers and architects and doctors, someone like myself who needs continuous education, finish my industrial design engineering degree, which is only a bachelor's, my goodness. I had to leave the school because it was closing down in a couple months anyway. So I've been reapplying to a few more colleges, and I'm sure somebody somewhere is going to pick up on that by watching this video, and I'm going to get a call tomorrow. So here you go. But people are not as intelligent as they think they are, especially when it comes to things that are so existential, radical, experimental mathematical and scientific theory is for the taking, but you have to have mass amounts of resources, many years, and tremendous amounts of training, discipline, education, hard work, all that to come together to help you become a scientist. And then you can start digging into something and determine the nature of the problem. And then guess what? No matter how much you prove it, if it's not gone through scientific steps, it's simply going to stay in that column that says, shall I say, theory of evolution, theory of this and that. I don't have any theories at all. I just know that I like to eat and I like to sleep afterwards. I know this is a long-winded video, people, but what I try to tell everybody and anybody is it's important to develop your own sense of thought and reason, develop your character, stand up for yourself. But, folks, let's be realistic about a lot of things. You're not astrophysicists. None of you are Neil Tyson deGrasse, I would think is probably even more intelligent about astrophysics than, say, Jordan Peterson about human psychology, or Ben Shapiro about political science. I love being around smart people. But here's the thing, folks. Again, if you think you're going to come up with solutions to tearing the time-space continuum, and you're going to have all these wild theories about one universe following another. I had an hourglass universe experience. You're throwing around terminology that's based on how many times you've watched the Avengers movies, or something with George Clooney in it that never really shows any pictures of the spaceship. More fiction, less science. Science is really dropping off in this country. I can respect that, but I can't. I've come to determine that a lot of Americans they're not intelligent because they don't bother to think, because Our culture doesn't foster independent thought or the thought process of any type. So there you go. But there's no such thing as a tear in the time-space continuum. As far as other dimensions are concerned, stop making wild claims. Change your diet, change your habits, stay away from substance abuse, try to manage your stress, get enough sleep, eat healthy, get some exercise, and your mind will stop playing these tricks on you. So that's pretty much it. So this is my name is Jason Wampler. We were at the 55-minute mark. I'm sorry to bore you with these long videos, but I'm almost kind of inclined to to leave one of these every 2 days. Well, that might be too much. You know what? Let's just keep it every Sunday after 10 p.m. We'll have ourselves a nice sit down. I'll try to make it a couple hours next time. And you want to bring your girlfriend, but I'm thinking if it's going to be 10 hours, if it's going to be a 2 hour discussion, it's going to be a relentless, tentative. I can't say that the two words are opposite, but it's going to be a regular thing. I think that it's important for me to speak up using the backdrop of human psychology, amateur study of such, and I think that the truth needs to be known. But like I said, I don't want to dispel all these lies perpetuated by science fiction trained front seat psychology. I'm sorry, my mind is just wandering all over the place. I think Hollywood has a lot to do with brainwashing people. I think Hollywood has become more corporate and it's more concerned about the dollar. But folks, try to dial out the noise and start thinking for yourself. And remember, it's not how well you think; it's how often you think. Try to just pick one topic and just chew on that until you come to a reasonable conclusion, and then move on to the next thought. But develop your critical thinking skills. Think independently. Don't let other people be talking for you. There's just a lot of things that are working against us to make life go from difficult to even more difficult or even impossible. And unfortunately, I've been through those too. So anyway, I keep saying we're going to cut it off now, but that is my final thought. Think independently. Learn how to walk before you can run with regards to any theories you might have about parallel universe. If I to be proved otherwise, that's fine. You can always shoot video snippets to Armstrong Media Group at yahoo.com, all lowercase, all one word. Address it to Jason Wampler, the director. That is me. And then again, it's Armstrong Media Group at uh, at yahoo.com. And of course, I need to see clips of people having positive proof of these unusual accounts, and then I can explain away why your mind jumps from one place to another. People are now having huge gaps of what I would call intermediate amnesia, which basically completely alters your time, your perception of space and time perception. Or I just said that it alters your perception, the understanding of memories, and a linear trail of things that go from future to past, future to present to past. So I'm going on, and we'll talk about those ideas later on. But again, hit the like, hit the subscribe button, hit the comment button. My name is Jason Wampler. I'll be shooting another episode of The Rocket Minute as well, my other channel, but that'll be after Thursday or Friday of next week. This has been Dimestore Phsycology. It's a production of Armstrong Media Group. Again, I'm your host, Jason Wampler. You folks have a great day. Good night and be safe.